Hello everyone, my name is Carrow and I am an urban fantasy author. I wrote those stories on the wall over there, and I'm going to tell you why you're going to quit writing. So I can't really speak for how fresh and new this topic is. I think at some point we all come out with a video about why we're going to quit writing, or somebody doing like the bait video about how they're quitting writing and they're kind of, turning it into like a self-help video. But I do know that it's been popping up on my feed a little bit more, and it's definitely something that I've thought about in the last year with everything that I've had to juggle, and especially trying to finish this story right here, Lock and Key, which is actually the second installment right after. No, it's the third installment after Dress Up, but for some reason I wrote second. I decided to kind of basically take all those musings and compile them together to, tell you why you're going to quit quitting, but obviously I was going to offer some unsolicited advice towards your way in order to stop that from happening, because I personally think that writing is a beautiful thing and that if you enjoy doing it, you should do it, but again, there's reasons that we stop doing it. So let's go ahead and I will dive into like my big 3 reasons about why we all quit writing. So reason 1 is the comparison game. It's basically where we see other people who write and we compare ourselves to them. Why are we not as successful? Why are we not as productive? Why is our work count not as high? Why? And this reason is actually kind of partially why I don't like sharing my word count on live streams on other people's streams, not because I'm like super self-conscious, but because I am aware that I do have a high word count. And the reason I have a high word count is because I am a planner, so I already know what I'm going to write before I write it, and I don't spend a lot of time musing over it, right? That's my secret right there, from me to you. But I've heard comments about people, either in passing or they've sent them to me about how they wish that they could do those things and they feel bad, right? And I have that self-imposed guilt on myself, so that's something for me to deal with, not you guys. But circling that back, we compare ourselves, right? We compare ourselves to other people. We compare ourselves to other author tubers. We compare ourselves to our other writer friends. We compare ourselves to people that are, publishing or self-publishing a lot more. And because we end up doing that, we're very hard on ourselves, and that ends up being a pressure that we add that we wouldn't typically feel otherwise if we were kind of like isolating and writing by ourselves. The reason that I feel like that is worth bringing up is because kind of like how fear is the mind killer, stress is what I call the creative killer. The moment that we become very stressed out or start to get stressed out, the thing that makes the creative part of our brain function kind of starts to not function, obviously, because our brain is devoting all the other energy to stressing out about this comparison game that we're doing. So obviously that leads to imposter syndrome, and you can have imposter syndrome when you haven't already had something out. That's surprise, right? And imposter syndrome is basically the whole I am not enough idea. And I feel like sometimes this mentality can also get fostered by conversations that are had. Now, don't get me wrong. I love these conversations, and they need to happen more, and they definitely have a place in our community. But sometimes when we have conversations about either representation or the proper way to write or things like that, what happens is sometimes when we're writing, that becomes the thing that we think about more than the actual story, and we start wondering to ourselves, like, am I doing this right? Is this how I'm supposed to do it? And that, again, is adding on to more pressure and stress that we're feeling, is killing that creative energy. And we've gone from writing a story that we're very passionate about and that we enjoy doing to suddenly making something for somebody else, and what happens after that. So, quick story time. So Lock and Key, right? This is a short story. Like, it may be 12,000 words, right? Like, I just finished the draft yesterday, and I've worked on this for guess how long? A year and a half. And the reason I worked on it for a year and a half is because I literally kept asking myself, am I allowed to write this? And the reason I asked myself that is because there's a demographic that's in the story that was in my first story but wasn't the main POV, and now she is. And I kept stressing out if I was allowed to write this character, and because I kept asking myself if this was okay, if this was the right way to do it, like I ended up not writing it, right? And literally within the last 20 days, I just said fuck it, and I wrote it, right? And the reason I said to do that was because there's obviously a writing process, right? Let's write the draft, let's get the words out, and then we'll go talk to people and make sure that we do our due diligence to do the proper respects to, these individuals that we are writing, right? You can't edit a blank page. Like, that's just the basic truth of the matter. So and that was why it took me so long, because I was so fixated on if I was doing it right and if I was doing the proper thing, that I ended up not writing it, right? And what really killed me for at least this particular story is that I love this story. Like, I absolutely love it, and I love this couple, and I love where they're going, and they're definitely like my feel-good pair that I absolutely adore. But because I did that to myself, I couldn't finish this tale. I couldn't finish talking about this character. So, I mean, so this added pressure and stress that we kind of like take on to ourselves leads into reason number 3 why we quit writing, which is burnout. You hear lots of conversations about self-care and doing things to prevent burnout, and just so, because as somebody who, not to throw my credentials out or anything like that, but as somebody who went to grad school and basically specialized in burnout in a gig economy, I can definitely tell you that burnout is not really paid the respect it really needs to be paid. My big thing is that burnout actually has the same symptoms and same recovery patterns as PTSD. You may have heard me talk about this. I'm going to talk about it for a little bit more. And if you actually look and you put them on like a comparison, exactly the same, but they're not caused by same events. Obviously, PTSD has its own category of catalyst, where burnout has a different one. But what I find to be interesting, because like I said, they have those similarities, right? And they also have completely different social responses. If you tell somebody that you have PTSD, the first thing they say is like, oh my goodness, are you okay? Are you getting help? Are you getting therapy, right? You tell somebody you have burnout, and usually what they say is like, get over it, right? Which really isn't the response that you're feeling when you have, overstressed your brain to the point where it doesn't function properly. Part of the reason this was my big research topic when I was in grad school was because back in 2019, I saw that the workforce was kind of very slowly shifting towards a gig economy model, and to the point where they were basically kind of doing the gig economy sites in order to, meet the ends on certain projects without actually having to hire individuals full time, right? And then, of course, 2020 happened, and a lot of things moved to a gig economy model without realizing it. But the problem that they faced with that is that when they moved to that model, they didn't properly educate themselves or their employees about how to work in that kind of setting, which, we can kind of fast forward to the things that we're seeing today. It's probably going to take us a couple years to figure this all out. But you get burned out, right? You get burned out because of all this pressure, all this everything that you're kind of carrying. And what ends up happening is that you look at your writing and you're like, I don't want to do this anymore. This doesn't make me happy. Or you start having aversion to it, right? Every time you think about your story, you go off and you do something else. My personal escape when I was going through a big burnout phase was a video game, right? I still wanted to be creative, but I didn't want to be creative in the same sense that being an author was. And so what I did, I went and played a video game, and I role played as my character. And that was how I coped with my burnout until my brain had recovered enough that I could actually go and sit in front of my keyboard again and actually make words come out. And that's natural if you're doing that, or you're kind of sitting there and realizing that you're doing that. That's how your brain is trying to protect itself. So don't immediately try to like shift gears and go back to it with that understanding. If your brain really is pushing to have you do this avoidance tactic and do something else, I would say cater to that for a little bit. Put yourself some distance between the thing that's causing this sensation that you're feeling, and then come back to it when you're a bit more grounded. Forcing yourself to go and do things that you really don't want to do just makes you hate and resent it more, and then you end up doing more aversion, and then you just end up quitting 100% completely instead of, recovering to the point where you want to go and do it again. So, but there are some things that you can't recover from, which is the very 4th reason. I think I said there were 3. I lied to you. There are actually 4. So the 4th reason that you are going to quit writing is because of life. Life happens, and sometimes life is a bitch, and it will slap you. And what I mean by that is that there are events that we don't anticipate that end up happening and becoming, the big dominant thing in our life. And that makes writing and doing all that fun stuff that we typically enjoy take a back seat. And sometimes this can come in the form of a family member getting really sick or kind of pseudo sick, or maybe pressure from your day job starts to peak up. You start working more hours, things like that. For me, recently, I had given myself a very aggressive writing schedule, which you can see in my #HoldMyLatte video. And at the time when I made that video, I was only working 15 hours a week. Like, that was it, just 15 hours, right? And then a week, literally, like 1 week after I made that video, my boss came to me and said, hey, I know we said 15, but I need you to work 40 at this point. And I said, okay, because I like money, and money helps me fund all my author and bills and everything else like that. So, do you guys notice I put author before bills? Like, that's where my priorities are right now. But yeah, so sometimes things in life will happen, and it will sidetrack you, blindside you, and you'll have no choice but to put the writing to the side. That is completely healthy and totally normal. Don't ever look at that situation that you find yourself in and say, "Oh, I should be doing this." Only you really know what the priorities in your life are and what they should be, and trying to, again, doing that weird comparison thing where it's like, well, so and so's juggling all this and they're making it easy and still writing and everything else. Why can't I do that too? They might have a different mental fortitude. They might have a different, desensitization towards things that happen in their life. Like, it's really hard to say. It's one of those case by case basis that would actually need like an extensive case study for me to really dive into. But again, life happens, and sometimes that will make you quit writing, but it won't make you quit writing altogether. It will just kind of make it take like a seat on the side and wait for its turn. And I just never feel like that's a bad thing. It just happened. So I only really have maybe these feel like the same reason, but they're two things that I would tell you if you're starting to feel any of these things about what you should do. Now it's three. Okay, so anyway, so the first thing is obviously when you are writing, make sure that you are, like, I just say fuck it, right? Because like I said earlier in the video, I can't edit a blank page. I don't know if you can edit a blank page. If you can, please let me know. I want to know what that witchery is. But you can't edit a blank page, so sometimes you have to say fuck it and just go and write. And part of the reason in late 2021, when I went into like extreme hermit mode, is because I really couldn't do it. I couldn't write in the writing community and not have those conversations that we're having like be in the forefront of my brain. I kept doing comparisons, saying I should be doing this, I should be including that, I should make sure that these things are happening. And again, pressure came on. I couldn't bring myself to write, and I ended up not enjoying what I was writing either. And the moment I realized that I was not enjoying what I was writing, I was like, nope, we're done. We're not doing this anymore. And I cut myself off from a lot of different groups, and I kind of secluded. I would do like the responded check-ins and things like that. But I literally withdrew because I wanted to write and I wanted to get the words out. And I know that when I go back and I edit those words, I'll give it the due diligence that it needs. But, that was my way of saying fuck it, right? Some people can say fuck it and still be part of the community, and if you can, I appreciate that. That's not something that I have the capacity to do, but that's what you should do. Just say fuck it to everything that's going on. Write the story that you want to write and make it the best story that you can, and then go through with the following writing process of making sure that you've got alpha readers, beta readers, your development editor, all that kind of stuff. So that way your story can be the very best story that it can be. And yeah, so that was basically combining, saying fuck it to writing a story that you really enjoy. Because, again, you should be writing more for yourself than you should be for other people. I mean, it's really kind of you to do consideration for other groups or other individuals for your writing. But at the end of the day, this is you spending a lot of time and a lot of energy and a lot of, mental taxation on a product that you should honestly be, pretty happy with or loving by the end of the time. So make sure that it kind of feels weird. Write for you first, write for everybody else second. So that's technically number two. Because the moment that you end up not enjoying your writing again is when that downfall of like not wanting to write starts. So again, just make sure that whatever you write, you're enjoying it. You're writing things because you want to write them, and at no point should you look at something and be like, bleh, I hate this. And the semi-third thing that I would recommend is that self-awareness of knowing when you're not feeling good, and also being kind of conscious of the things that make it possible for you to enjoy writing again, or things that help alleviate your stress period. Like, I still play my video game. Like, my video game's not going anywhere. I spend all day working, and then I will write for a little bit, and then I will go and lose myself in my video game for a little bit. Sometimes I'll go and roleplay as my character. Other times I will go and fight pixel monsters, whatever. But that's just what I do, and that's what re-energizes my brain and resets everything. So whatever it is that does that for you, whether it be like knitting, reading, going for a walk, playing with the kids, watching movies, doing whatever, just know what it is that helps you recharge that, and just make sure that you incorporate that in your life and that you enjoy doing those things still. Don't ever sacrifice that to the point where you just don't have it in your life anymore. Like, that's no-go. No. But that is the Carrow take about why you're going to quit writing, and some Carrow recommendations for how to basically not let that happen to you. Now, again, these are all my perspective, these are all my thoughts and my experiences. And if you have a counter argument, or if you have some additional things that you would like to add to this discussion, I have a comment section. Feel free to throw that in there. I'd be more than happy to hear what everybody has to say, what their experiences are, or what their recommendations are. For all I know, somebody could come and see this video at some point and they might be feeling burned out, might be looking for guidance, and it may be your comment that helps them get back on the right track. So again, feel free to throw something out there and maybe, you know, it will help somebody. I hope it does. You shouldn't quit writing. Writing's fun. But yeah, so that's going to be me in my video. Again, I have those things on the wall up on Kindle if you guys are interested, or if you want to check out and make sure that I know what I'm talking about when it comes to this writing nonsense. You can find those links down below in the video description. And I have social media. I've got Patreon, all that stuff if you want to support me. That's really up to you. I would appreciate it. All money that I make from social crowdfunding basically goes to my editor, so they are more appreciative of the donations than I am. But again, that's going to be me. Thank you guys for coming and listening to what I have to say about this topic, and I will talk to y'all again real soon.